Story 1. Slanted turners, spatulas, and can openers. In fact, when I designed my kitchen, I made sure it was left-friendly, from the counter layout next to the stove to how the fridge opens. Story 2. Most chairs with writing pads are designed for right-handed individuals. I have to sit cross-legged and slightly hunched to write, which is exhausting. Story 3. My dad is left-handed. In his high school shop class, the handguard for the circular table saw could only accommodate right-handed people. He has had a raised scar across his palm from that saw for his entire life. Story 4. My friend has trouble writing on whiteboards because he erases what he just wrote if he rests his hand on the board. Story 5. Sitting down for a meal next to a right-handed person at a round table can be awkward. In high school and university, there were barely adequate desks designed for left-handed students. Often, the left-handed desks either didn't exist or were limited to one side of the classroom, forcing left-handed students to sit uncomfortably at right-handed desks. Scanning a subway card at the gates requires turning your entire body. Can also be confusing to determine which scanner opens which gate. Public bathroom soap dispensers are typically placed on the right side of the sink, making it difficult for left-handed individuals. Many power tools lack ergonomic designs or protective barriers on the left side, which can create challenges for left-handed users. Gel pens and dry erase boards also pose problems for left-handed people. Left-handed ukuleles tend to be quite expensive. While it is possible to restring a right-handed ukulele, it will change the design orientation. I own a beautiful Fender ukulele, and I feel it wouldn't look right if I restrung it, so I begrudgingly learned to play it right-handed. When I was a child, our family computer was primarily used by my right-handed family members. I had to learn to use the computer mouse in a backwards manner because the button settings were configured for right-handed users. Ergonomically, it wasn't ideal, but I became accustomed to it. Now, attempting to switch my mouse to left-handed feels foreign and challenging. Story 6. Well, someone mentioned scissors. That's my second favorite. My first favorite is writing, especially using a pencil or gel pen. It tends to smudge on the side of my hand while I write across the page. However, I found that felt tip pens are a godsend for left-handed writers. Story 7. I am somewhat ambidextrous, so my concern is that whenever I am learning or trying something new, I am unsure if I have no natural talent for it or if I am using the wrong hand. Story 8. Old school can openers are a bane for me. I managed to master most scissors but still have issues with some of them, and I often get my pinky dirty when I am writing or drawing. Story 9. The chairs with built-in desks in high school and college had the desk part on the right side, requiring me to twist to write on a hard surface. Story 10. Emergency stop buttons on most machines are located by the operator's right hand to make them easier to access. For left-handed individuals, it takes critical seconds longer to find and activate these buttons. Using scissors and sports equipment was challenging in school. Right-handed chairs with writing pads contributed to unnecessary back pain. Our university had 22% left-handed students but only 10% left-handed seats. I often confuse left and right, especially when following driving directions. Learning to knit and crochet took significantly longer, but I eventually succeeded. Some older individuals still judge left-handedness, and there are a few cultural misunderstandings. However, I have learned to be ambidextrous, allowing me to adapt without significant struggle. Story 11. This might be random, but when playing a card game and you have your cards fanned out in your hand, you can't see the numbers in the corner because left-handed people hold cards differently than right-handed people do. This always bothered me. Story 12. This world, and everything you would use your right hand for, is oriented for a right-handed person. So it's use your right hand or strain, and naturally, until age 21 or 22, I chose to strain. My lower back and my knocked knees did not help my situation. They would have never caused me trouble had I lifted or moved all those things over the years with my right side as intended. Story 13. I became left-handed because I played baseball as a kid, and my right arm is slightly deformed and won't bend all the way. I can't use it to throw, but I can use it for writing. So I'm left with an awkward combination of doing some things left-handed and some things right-handed. Story 14. I recently saw in another thread that ballpoint pens are not ideal for left-handed users because they are more effective when pulled, as right-handed users typically do. I have a nice Shun Chef's knife that is designed for right-handed use due to its D-shaped handle. I realize I may not be using it to its full potential. I did not consider this when I purchased it. School desks with one armrest and spiral bindings were not comfortable. Story 15. Though I am left-handed, I have always used scissors with my right hand, so there is no problem there. In fact, I have trouble using scissors with my left. My main problem is that I just don't know my left from my right. Story 16. I stopped being a PC gamer when the games I wanted to play locked controls to configurations like using the WSD keys to move and the Shift key to jump, as they expect players to use the mouse with their right hand, which felt too clunky for me. A few games offer left-handed controls, but in my experience, they tend to be ineffective, and I doubt they were designed by someone who is actually left-handed. Bully Anniversary Edition is the exception, and I was pleasantly surprised when I played it for the first time. Story 17. I stir, butter, and can cut to divide with my left hand. If I am using a knife and fork together, I have to swap the knife to my right hand. Writing of any kind never bothered me. Story 18. I have lived in a right-handed world my whole life, so nothing feels strange or weird to me. However, having ink smeared across my hand when writing is always annoying. Story 19. I write with my right hand, but I am left-handed in other activities like sports, using tools, and driving. My only struggle has been when friends and family ask if I am left or right-handed, and I find myself having to explain it. Random fact, I just type this with my right hand because my left is holding my ice cream cone, and I don't like typing on my phone with my left hand, even though my phone was in my left pocket. Story 20. An ice cream scoop is the type with a lever that you press with your thumb to release the ice cream. Holding it in your left hand positions the lever at the bottom, allowing it to glide through the ice cream. Story 21. I need to remap all the keys for PC games to use my mouse left-handed without awkwardly crossing my arms. Story 22. Cup holders at our sports stadium are located on the right-hand side of the seat in front of you. I always hope for an empty seat. I have just discovered that most chainsaws are designed for right-handed users. I want to buy a small electric one to prune my trees, but they aren't configured for left-handed use. A machine-powered cutting tool for your non-dominant hand sounds very safe. Story 23. I am left-handed when it comes to writing, throwing, and sports, but I am right-handed for using scissors and a computer mouse. Writing is my only pet peeve. I dislike getting ink or lead on my hands while I write. Story 24. Someone in a similar forum explained that they couldn't use extendable mops without them twisting and closing back up. I had never realized that my issue was apparently only a left-handed problem. Story 25. Many things. This world is made for right-handed people. Every job I have had has presented some sort of issue for me, whether due to the tools I use or the way my work area is set up. It is all designed for right-handed individuals, and no one ever realizes this until a left-handed person points it out. For example, at my current manufacturing job, some of the workstations are challenging because the drills and equipment attached to the lines are all on the right side. Bins, buttons, and buckets are also placed to the right. If you try to reach for something with your left hand, you encounter obstacles, making it awkward to maneuver. There are many little things throughout our daily lives that create inconvenience. Story 26. Scissors. Writing in notebooks and binders because the spine and rings get in the way. Those frustrating right-handed desks. Mugs with words on them. Story 27. When I was little, I was forced to write with my right hand instead of my left, even though I am left-handed. I still write with my right hand because that's all I know now, and it's very unnatural since it's not my dominant hand. As a result, my wrist cramps faster than others, and my writing is poor. Story 28. Smudging ink on my hand when writing with a pen or felt-tip marker is not good enough for writing backward. Story 29. Manual can opener, coffee mug designs facing inwards, scissors, finding a left-handed softball mitt. Story 30. Not me, but my mom. She really struggles when she has to put a child in the baby seat of my car on the left-hand side. She also often mentions how frustrating it is to use a potato peeler. Story 31. I'm left-handed and have hyperhidrosis on my palms, so writing is challenging. There are smudges of ink on my hand and the paper is now a bit wet. Story 32. Power tools designed for right-handed users pose challenges for me as a left-handed individual. For instance, the trigger and safety button are set up for thumb activation, making it difficult for me to operate them. Additionally, tools like circular saws have the blade and cutting guide positioned for right-handed visibility, placing them on the wrong side for my use. Story 33. I am partially ambidextrous. I feel guilty that my relatives were treated poorly in school for using their left hand and were forced not to use it. The standard writing on whiteboards and the smudge factor can be challenging. I have occasionally encountered issues in sports where the coach struggles to understand what the problem is when they set me up for activities designed for right-handed individuals, such as boxing and surfing. Story 34. I always smudge my writing, and it drives me insane. I also use fountain pens so ink gets everywhere. I learned Arabic in school and loved it because you write from right to left. Story 35. Shooting firearms. Most firearm manufacturers are rightfully catering to 90% of the global population, but it's a bit disappointing. I'm glad there are many more ambidextrous options on the market now, but what I really appreciate are historical firearms. If you were left-handed in any other time in history, you faced significant challenges. Being left-handed in a phalanx meant you wouldn't easily break a shield wall to use your left hand. In sword fighting, you had to essentially inverse all your opponent's moves. In World War I, British studies found that left-handed soldiers had a significantly higher mortality rate than right-handed soldiers. This world really doesn't seem to accommodate us left-handed individuals. Story 36. Sitting at a dining table or restaurant and constantly adjusting the tableware is fine, but it can be annoying. Story 37. Some chef's knives are single-beveled, and the left-handed ones tend to be more expensive. My wife wanted to gift me an affordable yet attractive knife when I started learning to make sushi, but we discovered that the left-handed version was 3 times more expensive. Story 38. I recently discovered why the bottom of my brush always falls off. It is because I am applying pressure in the same direction that it is screwed in. Story 39. Any sport. I'm left-handed, but I have learned to throw right-handed, hold a bat, and set. However, I still kick a ball with my left foot. So, I'm ambidextrous at quite a few everyday tasks, but not by choice. Additionally, all of my coaches have been right-handed. Story 40. The cut-your-own-toast stations at hotel breakfasts are always set up for right-handed people, and it is very annoying. Story 41. When I was about 9, I had a teacher who always made me turn my paper straight. I would turn it horizontally and write down, but she would make me turn it the other way. Then I had to awkwardly position my elbow and hand to write, which resulted in poor handwriting. Because of this, I failed in room 3. Story 42. Technically, I am not ambidextrous as I cannot switch hands, but I use my hands separately for various tasks. I have a different dominant side depending on the activity. I write with my right hand but eat with my left. I ride snowboards and skateboards in a goofy stance like a left-handed person. I can shoot with either hand and am also capable of using both eyes for aiming. I shoot basketballs with my right hand. This aspect can get me into trouble. I use scissors with my left hand, but almost all the scissors in my office are ergonomic and designed for right-handed people. It's frustrating. Story 43. I couldn't cut anything in elementary school. Then I used my right hand, and I'm still not ambidextrous. Story 44. My uncle tells the bands I fill in with that I am a left-handed guitarist. They are disappointed when I play standard guitar and bass. Then they see that I am left-handed and play in standard tuning. I always volunteer to be a pallbearer so I can let them down at least one more time. Story 45. No real struggle, just annoyances, really. Growing up and then working in public-facing jobs, I received comments like, "You're left-handed. How do you write like that?" And, "They'd get you back in the day for that. Damn pens tied down on the right side of things." In 7th grade gym class, Our coach put all the left-handed students at one net and said she couldn't teach us some skills because it was backwards. One of my ex-partners had a set of measuring cups with a pouring spout on the side. I was always annoyed when I used them because it felt like I was using them wrong. One advantage is that I can use the computer mouse with my right hand, so I'm able to hold a phone and click around on the computer with ease, which helps with my job. I hate headsets. Story 46. Using a binder, the school desks are usually designed for right-handed individuals. While there are left-handed desks available, they are rare to the point that I feel uncomfortable using them. Story 47. Fountain pens were necessary for me in school, and I often ended up with ink all over my hand, smudging it across half the page. Story 48. Many people share similar experiences, but I have discovered a unique challenge. There is the issue of scissors, but I have found a solution. I work in the low-voltage trade and need to use electrician snips for my tasks, which are essentially scissors designed for cutting cable. Unfortunately, there are no left-handed snips available, so I have to adapt and learn to be ambidextrous with them. It's an interesting experience. Story 49. Back in school, we had design technology where we learned woodworking, basic electronics, and how to make things. My teacher often called me various negative names because my cutting wasn't straight. He insisted that I use my right hand and hold everything in what he considered the proper way. I was removed from the exam lists and spent my time preparing for other subjects while he glared at me in the classroom. Now, as a teacher, I would never put any of my students through that experience. Story 50. Tying knots. When learning to sail, it was challenging, especially the bowline. I essentially tie it upside down. It also confuses and frustrates my fellow crew, as it looks wrong to an observer but is correctly tied. Story 51. I need to buy a left-handed bread knife. I can't count the number of times I have bought a nice fresh loaf, only for it to come out looking like it was attacked by Michael Myers with his left hand. Story 52. Writing on a whiteboard is challenging. Scissors can be frustrating as well. One of the most difficult experiences of being left-handed was the Christmas when my grandmother gave me a left-handed can opener. She made me go outside in the 38-degree heat to cut the bottoms off the cans she had been saving for the last 2 months so that I could flatten them to fit in the bin. There were so many cans, and it was so hot. I had no interest in can openers, yet I had to do it to keep her happy. Story 53. Broom handles that unscrew from the broom when used. Safety catch on craft knives that unlock when pressure is applied with the inside of your hand. Story 54. I am right-handed, but my daughter and husband are left-handed. My husband works in construction and has suffered many injuries from power tools designed for right-handed users. Story 55. Smudging occurs when writing with pencil or ink. This might explain why I write and draw with my right hand but use my left hand for almost everything else. It became a habit out of convenience as a child that just stuck. Story 56. To find a good gaming mouse. When I started playing first-person shooter games a few years ago, I wanted to buy a quality mouse. However, there are limited options available, as 90% are designed with ergonomics or side buttons for right-handed users. Story 57. My dad tried to teach me how to play golf when I was 14. I am left-handed and he was right-handed. It didn't end well, so he bought me a bike afterwards. I loved that bike. Story 58. Writing without being able to see how straight my sentences are would be much easier if we wrote from right to left. Story 59. Scissors are my enemy. So I need fabric shears. Instantly, 2/3 of all scissors are off the market for me. Brands that offer left-handed scissors tend to have a limited selection, and that's it. Want a nice color? Too bad you get black and silver. Want a limited edition pair? Unfortunately, they don't make them for left-handed users. Need a 10-inch blade instead of an 8-inch? Why would you think we make 2 types of left-handed scissors? And heaven forbid I need a pair of pinking shears. If they're left-handed, they're ugly. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.